Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Something Super Spiritual. I have a really special guest with us today. Barbara Quinton is an amazing teacher, medium, psychic, and she's fabulous. And you guys are going to love her. So, welcome, Barbara. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Sue Brassel.
Yes, thank you, Sue.
Yeah. So, Barbara, let's talk about your journey and how you ended up where you are today. You are really making a difference for a lot of students out there, a lot of people coming into their own, a lot of people coming into their own recognition of the truth in which they are, that we are. And what was it like for you then, recognizing that within yourself? Did you come out of the womb psychic and medium, or was this something that happened later in life for you?
Well, in a nutshell, so I didn't I guess I say we always have these gifts. Like
Mhm.
we're a soul having a human experience. But I did not realize that I had that until about 2013. I went through my third child I had, and I kind of hit rock bottom. They call it dark night of the soul.
Mhm.
And then I ended up in therapy, and I started talking. At that point, I'd worked at Pine River Institute, which is a beautiful space for, it's like a rehabilitational boarding school for teens. And a lot of the staff, they did things like smudging, and they had crystals, and they were very of the earth. I said like they're like my tree hugger friends.
Yeah.
And uh, and I loved it, but I knew nothing about it. But it was enticing, and I'm learning how to do these things, and we're having conversations. And then when I went to therapy, I actually mentioned to my therapist, I said, I have these friends at my work, and this is what they're doing, and I'm really interested in the crystals and stuff. She just looks at me, smiles, she stands up and pulls crystals out of her pocket. And it was meant to be. I had no idea who this woman was. I just found her online, and she really called to me. And at that moment, I knew why I was connecting with her. And
Mhm.
so our conversation went from, supporting Barbara to let's talk about crystals and the metaphysical and all this stuff. So she said, there's a metaphysical store not too far from here. And she talked to me about how to choose a crystal. You feel it first, you don't look at the beauty of it, and then you figure out what it's for, and that's where you need the healing. So I drove to the store. Outside, I was like, universe, God, I don't know what's going on. Like, whatever's meant to happen here, just let it happen. So I go in, I'm looking at the crystals, and then the staff that was there was talking to someone who's like a customer, and she's like, there's one reading left, and that's it. And so in my mind, I'm like, if she doesn't take it, that's mine. And so she left, and I ended up taking the reading. And right away, the medium was like, you're a healer, you're an intuitive, you're a psychic, you're a medium. And I kind of like this stuff, but I grew up in a Christian home where it was like a big no-no for everything.
Yeah.
So common theme, right? Between a lot
Yes.
of people.
Yes.
Um, and so when she'd said that to me, it's like she opened this door of like, and I was like, yes, this sounds amazing. It was just like, it just lifted me to a different level, definitely one I needed at that time. So I ended up going into development classes right away and close to me. And then I thought, what's a good way to kind of get to know who I am more, because I needed the healing, which is why I was in therapy. And so I did Reiki. I found a really beautiful Reiki trainer,
Mhm.
and she did me all the way through to my all my levels and through my teacher's training and whatever. And through that, when we were doing Reiki on people, she's just like, talk about whatever happens, anything goes here. And I was like, I have someone here, like it feels like a man, it felt very foreign. And then she was like, you're doing mediumship, because the person I was doing Reiki for was like, that's my dad. And I thought, holy crap, I just did mediumship. I was so excited. I was like getting goosebumps.
Oh,
I
me
was
too.
so
I just got chills too. I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, that's how it happened for me. I was
really,
attuned to Reiki in 2006, and then the people started coming through in the treatments. That's exactly how it happened for me too.
I love
Oh
that.
my
And
gosh.
it makes sense though, right? Because when we're channeling, we're just an open vessel
Yeah.
of it's like pure love. And then
Yeah.
that's when spirit comes in, just openness and surrender. So,
Yeah.
and then from there, I just hit the ground running. I've been to Arthur Finley a couple
Mhm.
times, and then the mentors come, or I think they still do come to Ontario. I got them once when they were here a
Yep.
while ago. And then I've trained with some really great mediums in the States. And then over COVID, my friend Karen and I, we were like kind of terrified to be in front of people and going like, we should just start training people together. So we got our feet wet. The same story. We got our feet wet, and then we naturally, as you do, you come together with people for a reason, and then you kind of go your separate ways. So that's what we did. We ended up teaching separately for probably about a year together. And then from there, I just started teaching, and I love it. Like I do readings once in a while. I just started doing demonstrations like platform mediumship with
Excellent.
another medium, and we're starting to we're selling out every show, which is beautiful. It just to me means that that spirit is needed, and that collective of what we bring and are able to channel for the group is needed. So again, a million goosebumps.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. And it's just continuing on from there.
It's awesome. It's so interesting to me how, talking to so many people that I do and how our awakening stories are all can be so different. Some of us come through that awakening through trauma, the loss of somebody really close. You and I both know people, mediums, who discovered that within after, say, their child died or your mother died. You know what I'm saying? That coming through that kind of trauma, or the trauma of maybe a near-death experience, or the trauma of a terminal illness that they almost passed from, and but then there are those of us who are just, cruising along in life, and then synchronicity upon synchronicity that seems so random. And as different as they might sound, there's something so similar within all of them. There's something so similar, that remembering who we are at the very
Yeah.
core.
I think it's that divine consciousness
Yeah,
that really is what it is. And yeah, I totally agree. People, we have to go through a lot in order to get here. And that's part of the soul growth, I
totally.
think, is going through the darkness to find the light. And we wouldn't even have an inkling or a need to find the light if we didn't have the darkness.
Truth.
You look at any profession, the nurses, they've probably gone through some trauma. You're looking at therapists and counselors. They know full out what they're talking about because they've usually been there, So, but yeah, I love it. In the world of healing. It's
Yeah,
great.
it speaks to the wounded healer. I think is that Joseph Campbell, or was that Carl Jung? One of them.
Okay.
But yeah, the wounded healer. It's that wounded, traumatized inner child that gets it. Like, it's that I've been there. I know what that feels like. And when we get to that space where we start to recognize that in others, where compassion starts to flow and empathy starts to flow, and there comes that inner calling to be in service and help lift and heal and inspire.
I agree.
That's the wounded healer.
One thing I find interesting is that, like, when I look at my path from even my 20s, 30s, before I started this line of work and like coming into my more spiritual self, I had a lot of physical issues. Like anxiety. I
Mm.
had like little, like, I'll say almost like tics and things that my body would do. And I was like, I have no control over myself. As soon as I started to understand the my cognitive thoughts about why I was anxious, which had a lot to do with death, which are, I don't want anyone to die. That's very sad, but I hold it a lot differently now, along with like recognizing that we are a vessel of energy. As soon as I started doing healing, even all those little body movements and like tics and like problems and like almost stagnations that I had, they went away. And it's interesting now, like if I don't do healing for a while, or I don't do self-healing and do meditations, they start to come back. And I feel like if we just listen to our body and our
Oh,
mind, it'll tell us exactly where we need to be.
truth. Our body is our number one tool.
Yeah.
And, I say that quite often with, we love the crystals, we love the dowsing tools, we love the cards. I can go on and on and on over here. But as those tools being what they are, there's nothing better than this physical body.
That's so true. That's
Mhm.
so true. It's one thing I haven't ever talked to anyone about this in detail, but I heard somewhere, and it makes sense. that someone becomes empathic because they have deep trauma in their childhood. And before I heard that, I never even thought about that. I thought, oh, everyone's sensitive, you know? But then when I heard that, I went, holy crap. That's, and then you're reflecting and looking at everyone that comes through, and you know, you're like, wow, that's intense. Have you heard of that before?
I haven't heard it put in those words, but it honestly makes perfect sense to me. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense to me. And it speaks to that wounded healer that we all are. Some of us are obviously not aware of it, but it speaks to that because it's through that wounded healer where that compassion and empathy starts to flow because we've been there and we start to recognize that and that reflection in others. And so that calling that hits and we are feeling, to be in service and help heal, whether it's through, being in the medical field or the psychology field or the firefighter field or police or, all of that, which is in service to each other or healers, like you and I, where we're practicing Reiki and spiritual work and spiritual teaching and all that stuff. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think that's truly the gold in the dark. That gift in the dark is that awareness through that darkness of trauma, through that darkness of the dark nights that you were just speaking of. Because
Yeah.
they're hard. I mean, that is hard work. Holy mackerel, that's hard work.
Yeah.
Especially when you aren't really when you don't have like a role model or somebody nearby to kind of explain a little bit a bigger picture, a higher perspective. And when
Yeah.
you're going through that, trying to figure it all out, that was my first experience in 2000. I became attuned to Reiki November 11th, 2006. I was doing mortgages for that first decade of this 2000s. And we all know what happened in 2008. Everything crashed. Well, I went down in flames with it. I lost my house to foreclosure, bankruptcy, my car to repossession. I lost an 11-year relationship. I lost my career, my income. I mean, I lost everything, all that which was no longer serving me, gone. And that was my first like true like well, maybe my second, but first really much more aware, having been through the Reiki and having that little bit more expansion in the with regard to spirit and purpose. And yeah, it's it's hard when you don't have that higher perspective. And
Yeah.
that's where the work comes in.
Yeah. It is a lot of work. It is a lot. And it's very like, you know, one of the first things I heard too in classes is your development and your spiritual progression and your understanding of things is a lifelong journey, even
Yep.
before you knew that you were doing it, you know. But when you know you're doing it, then you can almost take the reins by giving it forever to work its magic, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I love surrender in everything as you as a medium too, you know. It's like key in every single thing that you do. Just chill out.
Yeah,
It's
that's
hard.
it. Oh, that's so true. It's such great advice. You know, it's so easy to go into this and take it so seriously. It's so easy. But I
Yeah.
find that when we are able to not take it so seriously, not take ourselves so seriously, go with the flow, bring that inner child back in, and just have fun with it, it flows in such a natural, honorable, lifting way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the things I was just talking to my students because I started a 6-week course for the beginners yesterday, and we were talking about just letting things go and letting things happen, and just self-care is key and all of this stuff because it can get heavy, but
Mhm.
um, just being playful about things and coming from like a creative space. And for me, no matter what I do, I always push the creative mindset for people because I feel like that's where our most happiest, you know, is just like creating and developing and being inspired. And I
Yes.
feel like, again, a million goosebumps, but like source and our higher self just has all these hopes and wishes for us. And I feel like they're like, yes, when we just dive into that aspect, no matter what we're doing. So I totally agree.
While you were going through this and going through your training, and I training is so important. It was being at Arthur Finley was it changed my life. It absolutely just it changed my life in every single way. And I find that for me, being there with all of those like-minded people, with community, you go there and you meet people who end up being lifelong chosen family. It's like you're re-meeting your people.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like really understanding what was happening with regard to spirit and myself, connecting, blending, however we want to describe that, but also recognizing how my clairs operate and understanding more about what those feel like. I mean, that was everything. I didn't understand what was happening. I understood the clairs, but I didn't understand what they felt like on my insides. It was huge for me. Huge.
Yeah. Are you like subjective or objective mostly?
Subjective.
Like
Yeah,
objective.
I
Okay.
don't I don't I've never seen anybody with my physical eyes. I've never heard anybody with my physical ears. It's always with my third eye and my third ear.
Nice. Third year. Yeah, I just love the energy of it. I learned about it through Reiki class, and my friend that I started teaching with a while back, she told me about it, and she goes, "Look it up," and my jaw dropped. I'm like, "It's Harry Potter school."
It
That
is.
within
Yeah.
within a month, I think I was there. The day
Mhm,
that she told me, I went home, and I'm like, "This is where I'm going. Bye, everyone."
mhm, mhm.
And then it was just amazing. But yeah, I learned so much, and I also love. I'm so grateful because I've heard so many stories that of people and how they've been taught have not been like full of integrity, or the ethic around it's a little bit questionable.
Mhm.
And I feel like Arthur Finley gave me a really clear definition of these are high standards, do it or don't do it
Totally.
at
Yes.
all.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's awesome. And I love the direction and the boundaries, and almost like they're like, let's go,
Yeah.
and I said, this is perfect for me.
Yeah.
Just like I'm here to get down to business about learning things in a safe space, and it
Totally
created it.
safe.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where I teach. It's from that space of like gratitude for and making sure that I maintain the integrity of the readings and as a teacher, you just kind of bring your own kind of modalities into it and your own flair, and you kind of adjust things, but there's this baseline of beautifulness that happens that you keep.
Completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's cool about the experience too, is because you are given permission to be yourself. And I love that you brought up the ethics. I mean, that is so important, that high standard. Yes. Like another thing that was huge for me was learning how to communicate it, learning how to express what I was getting in a really well, in a way that works. Because when you're getting all this information and that information is flashes here and flashes there, flashes of sound, flashes of feeling, and it's all happening at once,
Yeah.
because I do believe that we're all firing on all cylinders. We just might not recognize it at first. But when it's all happening at the same time, it is easy to get flustered and be like, "Oh, wait a minute, what happened?" Ooh, something. Okay,
Yeah.
that was a lot of information. How do I go back and find it? But yeah, it's just it's such a great experience. Anybody who is listening to this, if you feel that calling, mediumship might be it for you, take a look at the Arthur Finley College.
Yeah, for sure. And all the instructors I know too, they go like different places who they teach as well. So,
Yeah.
and for me, the challenge I say is less of a challenge, but I still find it creeps in the nerves and the ego. Do you know Anthony Maraca?
Yes. I don't know him
Yeah,
personally, but I know his name.
yeah. So I was being taught under him for a little while. And one of the most beautiful things I ever was taught was from him is like to become friends with the no. And like he and full surrender. He really pushed those two things. For me, that was key because, and when you're doing a practice reading where the answer is always no, you have no choice but to just go, hey, ego, go away.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
just keep doing the reading. So
Uh,
I love that. That was a
Barbara,
full no.
you must be psychic because that literally, I was taking the breath to ask you what challenged you. So yes, that is hard. That first of all, opening your mouth, being afraid to be wrong, afraid to look dumb, afraid to feel judged, and get those no's. It's so easy. The first couple of no's, you're like, oh, she loved her golden retriever. And they're like, no, she didn't. She was a cat lady, and you're like, ooh. And so you just skirt away from that, like, okay, never mind. I'm going to go somewhere else. Rather than going into it and figuring out, okay, what else did this mean? There's something in here. Give me a little bit more information. She could have been talking about the neighbor's golden retriever that the sitter might not even have known about in that moment, but validated that next day with the neighbor's kids. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. The nose, it's a really great place to be in when you get to that place of trusting and being like, okay, if I misinterpreted this, cool. Let me go back for more information. Cool. And there are times, let's be honest, there are times where we're just like flat out missing something. And that's okay. That's totally normal.
Yeah.
We all go through those just misinterpreting, I guess, every once in a while. And that's okay. We're
Every
human.
once in a
Yeah,
while.
we're human.
Yeah. Yeah. When I do the platforms, that's when I'm like, I get playful with it. You know what? The more I find like we have, let's say maximum 50 people in the audience, and I'm always a slow start. Some people mediums are like boom, 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 boom right off the top. But for me, I'm like, I have so and so here, and then they introduce themselves. And this is how I am in real life. I will never just like talk a million miles an hour about my whole life to someone I don't know. So yeah, so that's what we do in our mediumship, right? Is how
Mhm.
we naturally are. So, but there's been times when I'm like 4 or 5 pieces of evidence, anyone understand this? And it's quiet. And so I find like the more I engage the group or you engage the sitter in a playfulness and spirit, and you're like, okay, you're gonna make me work for it. Or I'll say like, this is they're trying to embarrass me. Or I feel embarrassed, like I'm not getting anything, but I was like, this is not a good way for me to look like I know what I'm doing. And then like everyone laughs, and all of a sudden the energy goes poof, and then
Yes,
like
that's
all of a
it.
sudden yes, 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 so it's almost like the way I explain it during teaching, there's this beautiful connection that we have with the sitter and then spirit, that communication,
Mhm.
triangle, and developing that relationship with spirit and connecting spirit and sitter. But there's also this performance that we need to do as a medium. And part of what I'm actually teaching people now is how to get goofy, get out of your own way. And like in my in intermediate class, I was giving them like keywords, and they would have to make faces and do actions. I'm like with these keywords, and then they're all laughing at themselves. And I'm like,
Oh,
good, be laughing at yourself because this is the best way
this is
to break the
awesome.
ice. Yeah, to break the ice.
It's exactly what I mean by not taking ourselves so seriously. Yeah, that is so helpful. Uh,
Yeah. That's one of the things too I find is like you almost have to fake it to make it in the beginning stages, because I tell students, like the more you practice, and I have to remind myself of this too, the more you practice, the more you're doing and you're meditating and you're connecting and reading, the easier it feels, but the more you know yourself, like the more confident you get. So sometimes when the sitter goes says no, you're like, yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Can tell me later because you just know.
Yes.
And it's not the ego involved. I think you have to be very mindful of how you present it. But
Mhm.
at the same time, too, there's this, again, this performance of the medium stepping into a reading of, I'm running the show. I've got you here. I have you here. And this is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Because my job is to be clear, to be focused, to give the message right. So like if we just let whatever happen happen without some kind of direction and an understanding like we would in a conversation. You know what I'm doing and I know what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
The same thing with reading, we just have to set the tone. So, but it's all fun. It's really fun. I love
Yeah,
it.
it absolutely is. I'm so happy that you made that point of knowing yourself, because that is so, so, so important. And I'm gonna like bring it back to some teachers where they insist that you be like them on the stage. You dress a certain way. You don't leave the stage. You keep it serious. Because spirituality is serious and grief is serious. Well, yes, that is true. However, when you know yourself and you know your personality, and I am not the kind of personality that can easily, well, just be that morose seriousness. You know what I mean? It's really hard for me. And I also found out, so when I started and I was practicing on stage at Arthur Finley, I was so freaked out because public speaking was my number one fear. So A, public speaking, B, demonstrating mediumship in front of a bunch of people, another fear. But I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know what to do with my arms. I was so awkward with my arms and my hands. And I was like, you know. But here's what I come to find out as I recognized who I am. I'm not the kind of medium that will stand on stage. I have to go out and mingle amongst the crowd. I want to talk to them. I want to see the whites of their eyes. I want to stand there with them in their essence. I like to be with people. I like to be connected with people. I like the touchy feeliness. I'm a hugger. So to stand up on stage like some of those teachers teach, it doesn't work for me. There's too much distance. There's too much feeling of disconnection in that. I want to be with them. So the
Mm,
fact that you said, know yourself, it's everything. It's everything. And then you just start to bloom.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I love doing readings. It's really beautiful. I have a question. I'll ask you after though.
Oh, go ahead, ask me.
Okay, this might be controversial. Are you okay with
That's
that?
right. Oh, absolutely. Let's go.
This is something that's bothered me, kind of a little bit off topic for a while, and I'm like, as a medium, I don't really know what to do with this information because every time I bring it forward to someone, they're like, "Oh, I don't know." So some of the people I most of the people I know that do mediumship full time have a lot of serious physical health issues. And this is a problem for me because I'm thinking I burn out. Like I just got off over a year hiatus of not doing readings. I had another business, but also I was like, I recognize my limits. And every time I talk to people, I have a huge network of mediums, and it's always the same story. And it's not just like I have a sprained ankle. It's like I can't get out of bed. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And I watch that when I say this, I am not devaluing the beauty of source and of spirit, but I'm like, there has to be, I think, a recognition of the importance of practice and self-care, perhaps, and like maybe toning it down a bit as far as how much we interact with an energy that is so separate from ours. Because the way I was explaining, we resonate here, they're up here, and you just kind of come together.
Mhm.
But I think that also, I always say the brain is stupid. It does what we tell it. Even our negative thoughts, it just goes, oh, this is a problem just because we're thinking it, right? So I think like I'm very clairsentient. And again, I tell my students, I say, in a week's time, if you're doing a lot of readings, I've been shot, I've been missing, I've had cancer, I've had a heart attack, I've had Alzheimer's, all these things I physically go through. It's like boom, boom.
Yeah.
As you're doing it, you
Yeah.
feel them and you know this. And so I'm thinking, we're restricted on our human body with our mind. I'm like, what is this doing to our mind that's now impacting our physical body? And I know a lot of mediums will say, well, you have to protect yourself and you have to disengage. And I'm thinking, wow, there's more to this. It's not just like you have an entity on you. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, understandable. However, when you've done everything and you're still not feeling good, then what? You
You
know?
know, yeah, you're psychic. I mean, this is so part of what I'm 54. And in my first 51 years, I literally went through life never being in the hospital, never being in the emergency room, never having surgery, never broken a bone, urgent care for, like bronchitis or flus or whatever, little stuff. But I literally went the first 51 years of my whole life doing really well. Since going into this work in 2018, where it's been full time, full blown, you know, super quick development. It started obviously, almost 20 years ago, but I went in like just pure, this is my full time now. But since then, I have had two surgeries on my both feet. I had a colectomy a year, 15 months ago from diverticulitis. I was in the emergency room 3 times that year with diverticulitis that led to that surgery. We were just talking about, I just lost my hearing last Friday. I had a tumor removed from my finger right here.
Oh, wow.
All in the literally in the last 3.5 years. So, with you bringing this up, is I have been processing through this too. I've had the conversation with Sue, with a lot of my mediumship friends. Like, you guys, have you noticed anything like this, like health related? Is something happening here? And I don't, like you said, I mean, I do Reiki on myself every single day. I am clearing after readings. I am um blessing my space and clearing the space. And you know what I mean? There's all of that is happening. So I have asked that over and over and over myself, like, what is this? What is happening?
Yeah. You come up with any answers?
I have not come up with any answers because my ear just
I was
happened
hoping you
just
would
happened
know.
5 days ago.
Yeah, I just think it's such an energy that's different from ours. And so far, that's what my conclusion. I feel like I'm almost going against everything I believe in, or it feels like, I don't know if this is like blasphemous, like talking against your faith. That's what it feels like, because I'm like, oh, but I have to move past that. But it
Yeah,
does. It feels like, I don't, even in our conversation, people watching this, I'm like, don't think you shouldn't do it.
no,
But there's just more to the conversation that has to be understood. And I think when people go into mediumship, I'm recognizing that people need to understand what they're giving up to do this. And like, one of my friends who's a medium, one of the big mediums, I can't remember his name. He's got books and all this stuff, but she talked to him maybe like, I don't know, 9 months ago or whatever. And she said he was like, if I could do this again, I wouldn't,
James
because
Van Prague,
no, it wasn't James. It was,
John Edward.
no, it was like, I think one of the Arthur Finley, like one of the name. It wasn't Tony Stockwell. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you, but I can't remember. And oh, maybe, I don't know if I should say. Should I say? I remember. Maybe I won't say, just because.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just to be safe.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause he's gonna be like, "What the hell?" But yeah, my friend had said that she spoke to him, and he said he wouldn't, just because it's all encapsulating,
Yeah.
tailing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean, with everything. But that being said, people who are of service that want to do this, I think it's a beautiful gift to have, because we do need the conduits, But I
Yeah.
think balance is key.
And I feel
Balance.
like too, I feel like it's more than a want. Like it's like, for me anyway, it was a calling that I could not ignore. It was, when I opened up after the Reiki and all that stuff started happening, and I had, my Reiki master and other, I would meet other psychic mediums just through spiritual courses here and there, or spiritual bookstores. And they would tell me, you're a medium, you're absolutely a medium. But it took me 5 years. It took me 5 years to buy into the fact that I was a medium. I was like, no, I must be a good guesser. I just must be a good guesser. And it just, but spirit wouldn't leave it alone, is my point. Like, I just kept running into people that say, you're a medium, you're a medium, you're a medium. And mid 20 teens, is where spirit was really knocking on the doors. You know, I say if they knock at the front door, they're going to go to the back door. If you don't answer the back door, they're going to go around to the windows. They're going to go around to the sliding glass door and peep in. And if you're hiding behind the couch going, shh, we're not home.
Yeah.
They're going to keep coming. So yeah, for me, it was like, okay, okay. And I think that might be the difference with regard to what we're talking about, that
Mhm.
you know, recognizing that this could be a side effect, maybe, you know, the health issues or whatever, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's like, for me it's worth it. Like I still know I need to do what I need to do. I still need to carry that light. I still want to be that lighthouse for others.
Yeah.
And 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 at the same time, I think, like, as we're having this conversation, there's more discussion to be had. There's more meditation to be had. There's more, you know, asking spirit, sitting quietly, you know, really trying to find that answer. There's more. There's something else there.
Yeah. What if it just occurred to me,
Good.
what if, because like I was mentioning, like our vibration and the vibration of spirit is such a high and like a higher frequency. What if we're like the whole point of meditation and our practices to kind of sit in our power and to become more holy? What if that is the way we calibrate and like offset the physical illness? Maybe we're doing too much work and not enough spiritual work, you know what I mean, or whatever will bring us into that state of heightened, because maybe perhaps if you work out and you tell yourself positive affirmations, your body follows. You can even cure
Yeah.
illness
Yeah.
by telling yourself what you tell yourself. So maybe we're so in our physical body that we are noticing it, the contrast between our, you know, where spirit is and where we are physically, that we're like, oh, we're sick. But if we just bring everything up together,
That's a great point.
what's, yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe that's the key.
You know, sorry, I had to slip away there for a second because I just got to thinking, I'm gonna commit to that and see what happens. You know, sitting in the power is such a beautiful, beautiful experience for us, obviously doing this work, but I mean for any of us, you know, connecting with spirit, connecting with the divine in that way, in such a conscious way. It's awesome. I don't do it every day. Should I do it every day? Absolutely. Do I? No. I'm busy, you know, with, you know, doing the admin work for business, or the books for business, or marketing for business. You know, we just get busy. But yeah, now that you say that, I'm going to make it a point to see what
Have you ever
happens.
done like sitting in the power with your spirit guide, with your healer guides,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and
Oh,
ask, isn't that lovely? I love that. When you said that,
yes.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so special to me because it's so palpable. Like, it's so palpable when you're there in that space. And it sounds super woo woo. And I suppose it might be, but you know, I love the woo. So, but you know, when you're in that place and you're with all of those beings who are with you and supporting you and loving you and lifting you, and you're with the source in that space, you know, you get to that point where it's so beautiful that tears just fall down your face. You're not crying, you're not sobbing, but it's like tears just flowing down your face in that beauty. Oh,
Oh, it's intense.
it's beautiful.
You know, I think like we get caught up in what we think, like you said, is woo woo, but I'm like, really, it's love.
That
I
is.
think
Mm-hmm.
it's you're putting yourself into a state of peacefulness and feeling the love. And I think that regardless of what religion or thought it is, that the main goal is to connect with a divine energy that can fill us and make us feel worthy and
Mm-hmm.
make life feel meaningful, right?
Yes,
That's,
yes.
I think we get tripped up along the way and everyone gets disoriented and and egotistical about it all. But at the end of the day, I think it's all what you're talking about, sitting in the power, sitting
Yeah.
in healing and in
You
the
know,
aspects of are.
what you just said, it just rang a bell with me about how we get caught up and tripped up over the ego and all that stuff. And I was actually just thinking about this morning before we got on our call, and I'm not even quite sure what thought led to what, but there are so many charged words out there: psychic, occult, woo woo, new age. They're all
God,
charged. You know, what'd you say?
God.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Totally. There are so many charged words out there. And when we are having these conversations, we can't have these conversations without using all of those words in the way that we mean, right? But it's so easy to get tripped up over the ego because of those trigger words. You know, they hit us from, culture, religion, fear, all that stuff from childhood and the past.
Yeah.
Um,
It's true. When I started doing this, I heard of people talking about they using the word God in reference to spirit or to source. And I every time I heard that because of how I grew up, I like shuddered. I was like, oh
oh yeah.
no. Oh, and then over time I thought, okay, I keep hearing the same thing and what's my problem? I'm like almost not offended, but I'm overreacting
Yeah.
really. And I'm
Mhm.
saying, okay, let's redefine what this means
And that's
because
it.
yeah, and one of the most beautiful things I want to share that I've
Oh, do
ever been
tell.
told was you are God. And
Yes.
that changed my entire perspective on the term, on the word, but also like on how I saw things. I went for the first time, I think I was empowered.
Yeah.
Truly. By hearing that, I went, that's true.
Yeah.
We all are. We all
100%.
are an essence of,
Mhm.
of a beautiful giant energy, I believe. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's not just one being, it's like a unity. So,
Absolutely. And again, it just boils down to getting tripped up over the ego because at that point, it's just semantics. It's just words. You are God, you are Buddha, you are Jesus, you are Allah, you are Krishna, you are Vishnu, you know what I mean? You are Kuan Yin. I mean, we are all of this. We are all one. We are all connected in ways that it's so hard for our mortal noodle to wrap itself around, you know? So it just boils down to semantics. And I went through that too. I had a period where, I shuddered at the word God. And I know people in my life today where, they're experiencing that too. And I'm like you just said, I'm like, well, that's okay. So you obviously recognize there's some healing to be done around that. What does that mean for you? Redefining what that means?
yeah,
Recognizing that it's just words? I mean, it's just words.
yeah, it's true. It holds a lot, eh?
Hmm.
It holds a
And
lot.
yeah.
As
Ooh,
I said, someone probably already has the name of the book, but Redefining God would be a great name for a book.
yes.
So,
Oh, Barbara,
yeah.
this has been such a great conversation.
I know. I'm just like, I'm kind of off in my own world. Now, there's so much to think about.
You know what? Let's talk about what words of advice would you have for people who are our listeners, our viewers on YouTube, who, whether they are feeling called to the path of mediumship or not, let's say, just opening up awareness, awakening to the divine truth within. What sort of advice would you have for those listening that are in that path, on that journey?
Do it. If you're questioning it, do it. I feel like no matter what, I always see the Wheel of Fortune tarot. It's like everything always comes around again, right? So if you are being called to develop or get to know yourself on a deeper level and you're not ready or you feel like the timing is right or not right, but you still are interested, be okay with that and just let it go, but know that it will come back around. I say that once source and once your higher self recognizes something being tweaked there, your interest, your things are going to coming to your path that will naturally keep calling to you. But I would say that the whole woo-woo thing is huge. Fear of judgment, fear of not knowing what perhaps example, mediumship. How do you deal with, you're talking to a dead person, like,
Yeah.
but really not really at the end of the day when you get to know it. So I say education is key. Start reading or taking classes or talking or listening to podcasts. Get to know the world of, say, the metaphysical and the spiritual, because it's a beautiful thing, and it really debunks a lot of myths when you start to educate yourself. So
Mhm.
education, and even in getting to know all the students I have that are beginners, or if I do workshops and they're like coming in fresh, the same thing. They're like, I have these experiences. I want to know how to deal with this. I want to know why, and I want to know how I can control it. Because a lot of times people think like, I get this. I get woken up at 3 in the morning every night, or, I have these experiences and it freaks me out because I don't know what to do with it. Why do I know this stuff?
Yeah.
And then that's where, getting teachers comes in, or talking to people, and empowerment. Empowerment is huge. Again, where the classes come in, you get to learn. These are my clairs. Oh, everyone has senses. Okay, so it's not woo-woo. It's like what you were born with,
Totally.
And, yeah, and everyone's connected to each other. And I think I hear a lot of time that being psychic and mediumship is so separate, like it's only for a select few people, or and I'm like, no, it's such a natural part of who we are. And then when I can have conversations with people, which I love, I say, have you ever had a vivid dream? Have you ever had goosebumps? Or even bringing like ghosts questions into it, funly,
Word now.
but sudden you get, yeah, just add it to the dictionary. You get these conversations that start happening where people get excited and they're like, yeah, I had this happen, or this happened, or I've got goosebumps. And you're like, that's normal, right? We are energy. So if you talk to people on their level, people who are not sure, like I was once upon a time, not sure, didn't know anything, you humanize it. And then as soon as you got them interested and unafraid, then you start implementing little practices where you can show them their personal power, and then they're like, oh, this is fun. Because then it's not fear-based, they're in full control, and then they can let go, and then you bring the creative aspect into it and their creative process, and then it becomes fun, and then all of a sudden they're off and running. So, but that was long-winded, but
No, that was beautiful. That really was beautiful. And yeah, you guys, if you are feeling that nudge, you are on this journey, you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this YouTube, you're here for a reason. And you were synchronistically led to hear this talk. Pay attention to those synchronicities, because that's how spirit communicates with us. Like Barbara said, start getting curious, and if books cross your feed that ping you on your insides, there's a reason. Take a look at it. Continue reading, continue researching, educate yourself. When Barbara's an amazing teacher, when her feed comes through with her 6-week development course, pay attention to that. She's an awesome teacher. And 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 what I find too, as obviously as important as development is, and it's very important, another way that I look at that is, for me, looking back and recognizing my own journey through development, and let's be honest, we're always developing. We're never stopped. so so it's like you said, it's a lifelong journey. But with respect to that, for me, another way that I see that is it's just fully remembering who we are more than anything. Because first and foremost, we are an unlimited, limitless spark of the creator. So we can't help but be that. We can't help it. And we're just ultimately remembering how powerful we are. And we're remembering how beautiful we are, and how worthy we are, and how connected we are, and how equal we are. And it's in that development where we really start to remember all of that. That's my point.
I agree completely. Recognizing your truest self.
Yes.
Love it.
So Barbara, where can everybody find you? Let us know what you have coming up, courses, classes, all that good stuff, where people can sign up.
Yeah. Well, I do in-person workshops. I'm just outside of Barrie, which is about 45 minutes from Toronto, north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. So I do have in-person classes and I also do Zoom classes. So I like to do 6 weeks of I could do beginner 6 weeks in intermediate, and they can be advanced as well in the intermediate classes. But those are on Zoom because I have a lot of people from the States, a lot of students from the States. So they're evenings during the weekdays. And I like the 6 weeks just because it doesn't, people can commit, but it's not overcommitting
Mhm.
for a lot of people are parents and stuff, have
Mhm.
busy schedules. And you can email me at events by Redfern at gmail.com. Redfern Events is my event company, and we used to do psychic and wellness fairs, but now I've moved a little bit past that. We're doing live audience readings, so I'm going to do a lot more. My website's kind of in the air right now. So, but you can always find me, Barbara Quinton, on social media. Oh, and Toronto Medium is my TikTok. So I sometimes I'll do free readings. I do a lot of I just chat and I have some learning videos on there as well. And yeah, events by Redfern at gmail.com if you want to do classes. And
Beautiful.
I do one-to-one readings sometimes, not so much right now, but yeah. And then again, the demonstrations, what we're going to be in Georgetown, Ontario, and in March, we've got tomorrow night, we're actually in Collingwood, Ontario for a sold out show, which is nice at the brewery. And then we're back there in Collingwood again, end of March, and we're going to be all over Ontario all summer long. So if you like that sort of thing where you go and you have a dinner and drinks, and then you get to watch us on stage providing mediumship readings, then this is for you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us. This has been such a fun conversation. And
Yes.
to me, it felt more like two old friends coming back and having this conversation about our lives
Yeah.
rather than a quote interview. You know what I mean? And those are always the best ones. Those are always the best ones. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me on. I love this.
All right, you guys, you've been listening to another episode of Something Super Spiritual. We'll be back again next week. Be well. Thank you again for listening to the Something Super Spiritual podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please do share it with a friend. For show notes, links, and to purchase a mediumship reading, my website is somethingsuperspiritual.com. You can also easily subscribe and follow the show on your favorite app, sign up for my newsletter for bonus content, and to keep the conversation going, you can easily join the Facebook community. It's all right there at the website, somethingsuperspiritual.com. Signing off for now, namaste.